No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
What was once a best of 7 is now a best of 5, and the dream of a 16-0 postseason has died. Good morning, Winnipeg. Good morning, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this morning on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good morning, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, here to discuss the Vegas Golden Knights commanding 5-2 victory over the Winnipeg Jets, preventing the Jets from sweeping Vegas on the road to start this best of 7 Western Conference playoff series. The Jets started well, faded as the game went on. Vegas started poorly, got better as the game went on. And gentlemen, all in all, it means that on Saturday afternoon, a best of 5 series is going to start between these two teams. There goes Ezzy. He's had enough already. Goodbye to Mr. Ginsburg. And he's back again. There you go. I don't know what was going on there. Ezzy, you with us or are you frozen? I think he's frozen, Dave. What do you say?
Well, I wasn't so sure. He looked like he was unfrozen, but he appears to have refrozen. So we've got Ez as a frozen Ginsburg.
Yeah.
But he looks like the Jets in the second and third period. It's a little bit immobile.
There you go. Exactly right. A little bit cement-footed, a little bit not able to elevate their game, when the Vegas Golden Knights instead absolutely stepped up and showed why they were the top. They were the top team in the Western Conference this year, with really a commanding performance over the last 40 minutes of this game, especially in the third period, blowing open what had been a 2-all game and preventing the Jets from dreaming big and thinking that maybe they'll come home with a 2-0 series lead to what'll be a raucous environment on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon in downtown Winnipeg. You know, the Jets started, Dave, like they ended Game 1. They were dominant in that first period, and you wondered, and they obviously got the opening goal in the game, and they led 1-0 after the 20 minutes, but you couldn't help but wonder, given how complete their performance was in that first period, were they going to rue only getting that one goal? Was that going to come back, and was Vegas going to find their game for the first time all playoffs? Because the Jets have been the better of the two teams through the first 4 periods of this playoff series. Well, we certainly know the answer. Vegas stepped up, which, by the way, shouldn't come as a surprise to everybody. Oftentimes, when two teams are playing against each other, and those two teams are relatively equal, or Vegas is the better of the two teams, whichever side you fall on there, the more desperate team is usually going to find a way to win. And Vegas certainly was the more desperate of the two teams, particularly in that third period.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, they were not happy with their performance after Game 1, and there's good reason not to like what Vegas did, because the Jets were the better of the two teams, and they, for almost the entirety of that 60-minute contest. And everyone knew going into this game, it wasn't going to be easy to replicate, Drew. So you're absolutely right. Although, to the Jets' credit, because in the first 10 minutes, when they had outshot Vegas 11-2, those two shots both being grade A opportunities against Connor Hellebuck, one, of course, leaving him bloodied, making you wonder if their goal was to make the Jets bleed their own blood. But the other one, of course, being the unbelievable larceny on that save, which Jack Eichel thought was in the net, but Connor Hellebuck made a spectacular save.
Yeah,
but I mean, they had outshot them, I think, in the third period of Game 1 and the first 10 minutes of the first period. So 30 minutes of hockey, and it was like a 24-4 shot differential for Winnipeg versus Vegas. So I mean, you liked the way the Jets came out, and they came out with the right effort, right? They were aggressive to start that game. They were out shooting them 4-0 early. And, I hated all the power plays. There were so many marginal calls. I thought the first game was actually really good in that regard. I didn't think that they overstepped. And I just thought it was too much like, the Nito Niederreiter one where
the slashing penalty you're talking about.
Like that's not, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that to me is not a penalty. There was another one I thought that was absolutely marginal. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't like that the refs got so involved because it seemed to slow the game down and change the game from my liking. And I say that not from a Jets perspective or a Jets bias. I think that both teams, were impacted by the referees, pulling the whistles out. Don't get me wrong. When Alex Pietrangelo jumps in to a scrum, he deserves to get the third man in penalty. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm just saying that I just didn't like all the the other one, the Vlad Nemesnikov in the first period.
Yeah, that was the first penalty of the game. That's the start of the parade.
I don't even care as long as if you want to call both guys. But I mean, it's incidental. You can't really. I don't know how a ref, especially from the angle, the ref who called it made the determination that it was Nemesnikov versus I don't remember who it was that he was trying to skate by, but. The reality is that to me was, I just didn't like the penalties. I just didn't love the way they were called. The game was called tonight, but I'm not suggesting that's the reason the game changed and the reason that the Jets didn't win that game, because Vegas was the better of the two teams in periods 2 and 3, but it definitely changed the complexion of the game, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, some of the calls were marginal, but again, they were marginal both ways. So it was a very tight level of officiating. The problem with penalties, and you're right, it sucks the flow out of the game, is what happens when that, in a game like that, because the game should be played at 5-on-5, and the vast majority of the first period wasn't played at 5-on-5, which is always a little bit annoying. But again, that has nothing to do with the results of tonight's game. The result of tonight's game was simply because the Vegas Golden Knights were the far better of the two teams from the 10-minute mark of the first period. You remember, it took until the latter half of the first period for Vegas to get their first shot on goal at 5-on-5. The two shots that they had to start the first period were both power play opportunities. Before, they didn't have a shot at 5-on-5 because the Jets absolutely dominated the game to start in that first period, and particularly at the 5-on-5 play when there was 5-on-5 play. We welcome Ezzy Ginsburg back to the show. Hi,
thanks for welcoming me back, Drew, and not stopping your sentence there.
Well, yeah, I just could flow it in there, and without skipping a beat. How's that computer of yours coming along?
It's great. It's better than yours.
We were just saying, Ezzy, that from the Jets obviously had the better of the start to the game. The start to the game for the Jets was phenomenal. They had Vegas on their heels, and it was a very similar Jets team to what you saw at the end of in a lot of game 2, especially in that third period. But as that first period went on, and then certainly throughout the second period and then the third period, Vegas just took control of the game, took control of the play, and the Jets really didn't have a response. They get the Kevin Stenlund goal, so that's tied up at 2 after 40 minutes, and we'll talk about that when we get into the Betway game recap. But other than that, Vegas certainly was the better of the two teams for the majority of tonight's game.
Absolutely. We talked about it on Saturday morning show. What would the impact of Mark Stone be, right? And he was criticized a little bit. I thought unfairly so, considering that he hadn't played in roughly 3 months, right? And he was excellent tonight. Not just the couple of goals, but he had the scoring chance in tight. He didn't get all of it. Connor Hellebuck made the saves. Hold on, let me turn my notifications off here. You're going to be hearing a lot of that poker chip sound effect, because that's what I get when I get my text. But
I want to know who's texting you. It's 12:15 in the morning. Who's texting you there, Mr. Popularity?
Well, Naomi's in Arizona, so she's fired up. A few other people, but yeah, whatever. But yeah, I mean, this was absolutely, a game. Look, we knew that Vegas was going to have a response in this game. You're not going to go back down. I mean, you obviously could go back down 2-0 heading into Winnipeg, but the series is over if that's the case, right? We know that the crowd is going to be a huge boost for the Jets. And yeah, so back to Mark Stone. I mean, Stone was really good in tonight's game, and so was Chandler Stevenson. And we talked about it. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights are a deep team. And you're right. I mean, the Jets were really good in the first period. And, that 4-on-3 power play, I know that left a lot of Jets fans, a lot to be desired there. But the Golden Knights were the dominant team in the second period, and they didn't take the foot off the gas in the third period. Jack Eichel gets his first career playoff goal long overdue. He wasn't as good as he needed to be in the first period. And as you mentioned, right off the top, Drew, the Golden Knights elevated their game tonight, and they had to. They, as I said, they didn't want to go down 2-0 back to Winnipeg. And give Laurent Brossoit credit. He was really good tonight. And, there was a feeling that, the Golden Knights might go to Jonathan Quick. So Brossoit was also really good tonight. But overall, yeah, that was a really good response from the Golden Knights, and they needed it because the Jets were dominant in the first period. They played a near perfect road game, and now we have a series.
Yeah, I mean, now we have a series. You're right. I mean, Dave, it's almost as simple as in game one, the Jets' best players were better than Vegas's best players by far. Jack Eichel, we know, was lousy in game one. Mark Stone, first game back in a number of months, he wasn't great. And then tonight, Vegas's best players were better than the Jets' best players. I mean, it's sometimes it's a pretty straightforward, pretty easy game to analyze. That the Vegas, the guys who are the leaders on Vegas, the guys who are the driving forces on Vegas, wouldn't let the team go down, and they stepped up their game when the Jets' best players couldn't match that level that Vegas was reaching.
Oh, no, I mean, there's no question about it. And as he said it, Mark Stone was the guy we were wondering what kind of impact he would have. And, as is right, it was unfair, some of the criticism that was being directed his way after that first game, because it wasn't entirely on him that they didn't win. And, obviously he must have, having his parents in the crowd, he was getting pumped up.
Oh, were they in the crowd? I had no idea.
Yes, just once or twice I think they showed them in the crowd, but we'll see we'll see which Jets parents are in the crowd in Winnipeg, highlighted 17,000 times during the broadcast. But no, look, I mean, Mark Stone stepped up. Mark Stone is a phenomenal hockey player, and we said this when we were previewing the series, what kind of impact and how much of a difference maker he could be for the Vegas Golden Knights, if he's back to somewhat of the Mark Stone you've come to expect as one of the best two-way wingers, kind of like a center, but really a winger in the game today. So, and he had an impact throughout the course of this hockey game, especially like you said, Drew, in that second and third period. So the Jets weren't able to match the intensity. Pierre-Luc Dubois and Mark Scheifele just didn't bring that same level of push as we saw. And defensively, they weren't great. So the second line wasn't anything to write home about. I actually thought the two best lines were your third and fourth lines for the Winnipeg Jets throughout the course of this hockey game, and the first and second weren't. So that's it's incumbent on them. They're the big drivers, and anytime you can get production from the bottom, obviously that's a good thing. But your big dogs got to be your big dogs in the playoffs. And so for the Jets, that's the Scheifele, Wheeler, and Scheifele, Connor, and Dubois line. And look, Kyle Connor, as he said it, and he wasn't wrong, in the first period, Kyle Connor had almost as many shots as the Vegas Golden Knights at one point. Yeah. And he ended up tying Patrick Laine, Blake Wheeler, the most shots ever by the second period. But shots are great, as he can do a bunch of fireball shots next coming up. But the truth of the matter is that you need to score some goals. And
it's actually at your house, Dave. I don't have the fireball.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I'm going to have to run it to your house right now.
I'll do a shot of Diet Coke.
There you go. That'll be just as effective. What's going to be interesting to me now, look, this is the first time since the Jets, you moved Scheifele to the wing. And since that homestand, this is the first time since that start of that homestand that the Jets have really been dominated in a game. Take away the Colorado game, that doesn't count. So now I'm really curious to see what their response is going to be to that, because they've been playing such good hockey as of late. Even the game they lost to Calgary, they certainly weren't dominated like they were tonight by Vegas. So that to me is going to be sort of one of the most interesting takeaways, and obviously something that's going to be a storyline between now and Saturday afternoon's game 3 is how do the Jets respond to being really at the wrong end of a one-sided performance, because it's the first time that they've been like that since the line juggling that took place a couple of weeks ago, Ezzy.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And we already are talking about it, but I mean, we want to focus on this game. But I mean, you are going to get a huge boost as soon as those guys hit the ice for warm-ups. We know how loud that building's going to get, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this game was, something that Vegas needed. As I said, I mean, the series is, for all intents and purposes, over. I mean, you can come back down 2-0, but that's the type of response that they needed. And Dave talked about, I talked about it. Dave talked about it, Mark Stone. And I thought that, when Karlsson and Eichel scored those goals, yes, Kevin Stenlund tied the game up on the Saku Manalainen and backhand pass and backhand shot. But Vegas was all over them with 20 shots in the second period. And really, they didn't recover from that. And, I thought Vegas was generating all the speed. It was kind of, you flipped the script there, from the first period, and the Jets, didn't really have any sustained zone time. They didn't have a lot of second chances, right? Like, it was a lot of shots from the outside. And Scheifele, Connor, and Dubois, Dave's right. I mean, they were fantastic in the first game, and they were fantastic in the first period. And then you just didn't see a lot of it, right? And then the game settled down. There were less power plays as the game went on, and it settled into even strength. And it was really, Chandler Stevenson, Mark Stone, and was it Brett Howden was the other player on that line? I mean, I don't know if that's the third line or the second line. I mean, I would call that the first line, right? Because Chandler Stevenson, we talked about it on Saturday's show, right? Before they acquired Jack Eichel, Chandler Stevenson, he was their number one center, right? So whatever line that is, if you're calling that the third line or the second line, I'm not sure. I mean, that was a dominant line. And, the Jets at times were, a little bit flat-footed in their own zone. And, Vegas took advantage. And this was a commanding win. But you're right. I mean, you have to come back. You basically, have to erase this from your memory. I mean, you have to learn, from some of your mistakes, but you have to erase this. And it's a brand new series, as you said. So, Connor Hellebuck, I mean, I think, the second Mark Stone goal, I think that was a weak one on Hellebuck. But aside from that, I don't think you're going to fault him on any of the other goals.
No, I don't think Connor Hellebuck was the problem in this game at all. I think the Jets just didn't execute well.
William Karlsson also beat, I think it was Dylan DeMello, and then who else was behind the net? I think Nate Schmidt was behind the net. Kessel was the one that fed it to William Karlsson behind the net, and then nobody picks up Mark Stone, right? So, I mean, that was just lazy defending by the Jets. But aside from that, the Golden Knights scored some nice goals. Like, they worked for their goals. Like, the Golden Knights brought it in the second period to use a kind of a weak, phrase, but like that was the case. They brought it in the second period. They peppered Connor Hellebuck, and they got rewarded with 5 goals tonight.
They certainly did, and it shows, the Vegas needs to give. That's the level that Vegas needs to play at to be successful. That's the Jets need to match that level. So each team now knows what their opposition can play like, and how they want to play. And now the chess match continues for the next, as the best of 5 series gets underway on Saturday as to who can keep their game to that level on a more consistent basis. And that whichever team can is probably going to be the team that wins this series moving forward. Let's get into it. It's the Betway game recap on this Friday morning, little 25 minutes after 12 o'clock. We say good morning. Welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show talking about the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Golden Knights 5, the Jets 2. Series tied at 1 game apiece. Game 3 going Saturday afternoon in downtown Winnipeg. I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. If you haven't already done so, please smash the like button on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the podcast. We do this after each and every Winnipeg Jets game, and we'll do it again Saturday morning, 9 a.m. We will get you ready for Saturday afternoon's tilt between the Jets and the Golden Knights. The Betway game recap is, of course, brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options and sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. As we mentioned, the Jets started like an absolute house on fire, and a good house on fire, not one of those bad houses on fire, a good house on fire. Maybe it's a gingerbread house that's just getting cooked, and as a result, you're going to be able to eat some nice, soft, gooey gingerbread as a result.
Let's get to the goal, Drew.
Adam Lowry getting his 3rd of the playoffs already. I don't think anyone expected that. His 3rd, as I mentioned, at the 9:18 mark of the first period. Assist to Neil Pionk and Nate Schmidt. It's a power play goal for the Winnipeg Jets. It starts with Lowry in the faceoff circle. He scrambles the draw. Nate Schmidt comes in to pick up the puck. He feeds it back to Neil Pionk, and Lowry goes where Adam Lowry usually goes, which is the front of the net, and he's able to get the deflection on the Pionk shot past Laurent Brossoit to give the Jets the 1-0 lead at the 9:18 mark of the first period, as I said.
Yeah, before we get into the goal, the first power play unit was on for a minute and a half, something like that, and they had a lot of good pressure.
Yeah.
And then the second power play unit steps over the boards, and as you mentioned, right off of a face-off, we see this later in the game with the Vegas goal, but it's right off the face-off, and Nate Schmidt's in great position, digs the puck up, gets it back to Neil Pionk, and they have layers there, right? It's Nino Niederreiter parked right in front of Laurent Brossoit, and it's Adam Lowry in front of Nino Niederreiter in the high slot. And it's a beautiful tip. And, that's kind of, that's just a really nicely executed goal. And, Adam Lowry remains red hot.
Yeah, he remains red hot, doing exactly, nothing fancy. You get shots through from the point, you get a stick on a puck, and good things are going to happen generally, Dave. We'd be remiss if we just skipped ahead and didn't talk about Connor Hellebuyck's incredible save on the Vegas power play that was early in the game with Nemesnikov in the box. Vegas did exactly what they want to do on their power play, set up Jack Eichel, who absolutely unleashed a bullet of a shot that Connor Hellebuyck, they'll talk about the first one first. Hellebuyck goes crease to crease, post to post, and just with a spectacular glove save, snags it with his glove hand, somehow manages to keep the puck and his glove in front of the goal line. It's one of the best saves we've seen him make this year, and he's made a ton of big saves for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, and there's no question. He was excellent in that first period, and he was he had to be good again in the second. But I think that we talked about it. We said if the Jets are going to have a chance in this game, they needed Connor Hellebuyck to ensure that they stayed ahead of Vegas, because you knew that Vegas was looking for a little lifeblood, something to get them going, something to get them excited. When I said they're looking for a little lifeblood, though, I didn't think that Jack Eichel was going to take me literally and try and, take off Connor Hellebuyck's head with that 95-mile-per-hour slap shot that he unleashed from about 20 feet away. But yeah, Connor Hellebuyck was excellent on those. And again, Drew, those, as you said, those are the first two shots of the game for the Vegas Golden Knights on that somewhat questionable penalty call against Vlad Nemesnikov. But I mean, he was exceptional, and he made, that again, the Jets built off of that, right? The Jets were able to say, okay, look, this game is ours for, he's going to be what we expect him to be, which is Connor Hellebuyck. And that allows the Jets to play a little bit more, not that they're loose, but they were freer, I would say, because they know how good he can be throughout the course of that game. So sure enough, they get that goal to be up 1-0, and they know that Connor Hellebuyck is playing the way he is behind him.
I think you have to be completely insane to be a goaltender, because Jack Eichel, as Dave referenced, unleashes that absolute bullet that hits Hellebuyck in the helmet, and you usually wear a helmet to protect your head, and this certainly protected his head, but at the same time, it still managed to cut him. That's just how hard that shot was, and the force of that shot and the impact that it had on the helmet, cutting Connor Hellebuyck over the eyebrow. Just to stand in there and take that shot and just not be fazed by it is just an absolutely, it just goes to show you what goaltending is all about at the NHL level.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It was two really, I don't know if you call that a save. It's a save, but it hits him. But the one-timer, the Chandler Stevenson shot that we were talking about earlier, that was just an unbelievable save. And even though he was really good in the first period, and he was pretty solid overall. Vegas is a high-powered offensive team, right? And we talked about it. The first game, I don't think many people were expecting the Jets to shut them down like they did. And after the first period, the Golden Knights knew they had to elevate and get more rubber on Hellebuyck. But you're absolutely right. Good on Hellebuyck. The Band-Aid gate, if you want to talk, if you want to call it that. It seems like one member of the Jets has to bleed now every single playoff game.
There you go. It seems like a very reasonable policy for the Jets to adopt during the playoffs, just to show how serious it is. 1-0 for the Jets after the first period. A great first period for the Winnipeg Jets. As we talked about, they kept they peppered 17 shots at Laurent Brossoit. You can't help but wonder, that power play, 4-on-3 power play, so much room out there where the Jets may be trying to be a little too fancy, especially after they had scored with a simple, straightforward shot tip on the power play to open the scoring. Were they
were just passing the puck around too much. Kyle Connor, from what I remember, had a decent scoring chance, but they were just passing the puck too much.
Yeah, it was just too much on the outside, and the clock ticked down too much. And Vegas, which was fortunate to be only down 1-0 after 20 minutes, would probably say, okay, thank goodness, we'll take that, only down 20, or only down 1 after 20 minutes. Come the second period, Vegas is looking like a completely rejuvenated team. They look like a new team out there. Mark Stone, even he doesn't capitalize on this, but Mark Stone somehow gets all alone behind the Jets defense. I mean, Stone had the 2 goals in tonight's game, but he had this great opportunity as well. He's left all alone behind the Jets defense, and then Connor Hellebuck does a great job sort of outweighting him, making the first save, and then Stone gets his own rebound and he slides it just wide. But you could sort of already tell the change in the tone of the game. The Jets' attention to detail was not as good to start the second period, and Vegas was certainly had more jump and was getting on the Jets with a forecheck and being more effective with the forecheck, culminating in William Karlsson getting his second of the series already at the 5:54 mark of the second period, Dave. It's his second assist to Phil Kessel. Just way too long of a shift for the Winnipeg Jets by Mark Scheifele, by Pierre-Luc Dubois. The defenseman on this one, Pionk and Dillon, gets caught out there for way too long. They're gassed. They have nothing left. They can't find the bouncing puck. It's just in their feet, and William Karlsson is able to scoop it up and absolutely rifle it past Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah, the only thing Hellebuck might have wanted was when the puck initially got shot in on him, he tried to grab it with his glove and he didn't grab it cleanly. He might have been able to freeze it, of course, at that point. And instead, the play stays alive. And yeah, you're right, Drew. The fact is that everybody's standing around, looking around, but nobody's actually doing anything. Nobody's taking a man. And it leaves, Karlsson to get the Vegas goal. And it's an unfortunate play because, the puck is it's almost like Plinko. The puck is bouncing, in and around, and it lands right where Karlsson is, and it doesn't land with any of the Jets. And again, not tying him up leaves him free to do what he did, which is put it up and over Connor Hellebuck and tie the game. And, give the Vegas Knights some, that life, that reward that they're like, okay, we're in this game, right? We're pushing. We've been the better team to start this period. Now we got our reward, right? That positive reinforcement that team's looking for. That, some of the folks are saying in the chat, like, look, the Jets were kind of cheating a little bit for offense because you fired 17 shots on Laurent Brossoit. You've only scored on 1 of them. You're thinking, well, do you have to get away from your game a little bit to try and get that second goal, whatever. But the fact is Vegas gets that reward, and now suddenly it's a 1-1 game.
Yeah, exactly right. As you could see, the Jets just were the heaviness in their legs at that extended shift for Scheifele and Dubois. They were able to get a slight line change in getting Kyle Connor off the ice, but they weren't able to make the complete line change because of the longer distance you have to go in the second period to complete that line change. And Dubois and Scheifele, Pionk and Dillon just had absolutely nothing left.
Nino Niederreiter was the other forward out there.
Yeah, right. Niederreiter was the guy who was able to jump on for Kyle Connor, but the Jets, you could almost feel that coming, especially when they weren't able to make that line change, and Vegas was able to, headman the puck right back into the Jets zone after the Jets briefly were able to get Connor off and Niederreiter on.
Yeah, Niederreiter had a chance to clear it and he didn't, and it was a long shift, and that's the attention detail you're talking about. I mean, you can't have shifts that long. Simple as that.
Exactly right. So 1-1 at that point in time, early in the second period, Vegas gets their first lead of the series at the 10:25 mark. Jack Eichel with his first career playoff goal, assist to Alex Pietrangelo and Michael Amadio. And it's almost, it's similar into how the Jets opening goal looks, in that the puck, Amadio collects the loose puck. He gets it back to Pietrangelo, and Pietrangelo puts it on net. And Jack Eichel, really with a tremendous tip. Brendan Dillon is the guy, if I'm not mistaken, who's on Eichel. He is unable to tie up his stick, and Eichel is able to just have a tremendous deflection from the high slot, getting it past Connor Hellebuck to give Vegas a 2-1 lead. halfway through the second period.
Yeah, Michael Amadio did some good work there, and the Jets were scrambling a little bit. And that point shot, I'm not sure if I mean, I am pretty sure actually he was going to miss the net. So it was a really skilled tip by Jack Eichel. And you're right, Drew. There was a lot of similarities between the Adam Lowry goal and the Jack Eichel goal. And nice. I know Jets fans, don't want the Golden Knights to score any goals, but nice for a guy like Eichel, right? Because for a guy who was second overall after Connor McDavid, like he's dreamt about this for how long, right? And year after year missing the playoffs with the Sabres. So just wanted to get that in there. I mean, it's always nice when a guy has waited that long. And like we talked about, he wasn't a big factor in game one. I mean, let's be honest, most Golden Knights weren't a factor in game one. And that's a testament to how well the Jets played defensively. But yeah, really nice tip by Eichel. Nice work down level by Amadio. I think one of the more underrated players on the Golden Knights. But look, they were buzzing. All the pressure was on the Jets in that period. I mean, the Jets had a few chances, but they really did flip the script, as we talked about earlier. So really nice tip by Jack Eichel. And if it wasn't for Kevin Stenlund, I mean, the Jets could have been in a much deeper hole, because that goal gave them some momentum back, because the momentum was clearly in the Golden Knights' favor. They were all over the Jets. But yeah, beauty tip by Eichel.
Yeah, 19-10 ended up as the shots on goal in the second period, which reflects just how in control Vegas was. But you mentioned the Kevin Stenlund goal, and this sort of came out of nowhere. The Jets had been on their heels. They hadn't really been able to generate much at all in the second period, Dave. But Saku Maanalainen coming down the right side, and again, nobody expects anything from the Jets' fourth line, and he makes a nice pass to Kevin Stenlund, and Kevin Stenlund just reaches out and redirects the pass up and over Laurent Brossoit and under the crossbar. And for the Winnipeg Jets, this at the 16:01 mark of the second period. So the Winnipeg Jets, who don't really play a good second period at all, are rewarded in just a blink of an eye from a guy that you would not expect to get on the scoreboard and not be the catalyst to turning the game from a deficit to a tie.
Right, and I've got the comment from Ryan Trapp highlighted right now saying Jets were not crisp on the passes and the defensive zone exits, because, I think that is kind of a testament to what we saw, especially in the second and into the third as well from Winnipeg. And you're right, Drew, that did flip the script briefly, because the amount of energy a team can get from a fourth line, and I said that in our preamble about the Jets actually having some success playing the fourth line tonight and the third line. I thought the first two lines weren't great. And I thought that fourth line, getting a goal from those guys who play, get a minimal amount of minutes, usually get the less optimal, opportunities in a hockey game. And yet Kevin Stenlund makes a real nice play to just simple, right? Sacramento line. And like you said, Drew, gets the puck on net, and Kevin Stenlund with his big reach and his long reach is able to redirect that puck up and over Laurent Brossoit. And, again, it was funny because watching it live, I was like, is that Blake Wheeler? Is that Kevin Stenlund? I'm not entirely certain. I think it's Kevin Stenlund because it was Sacramento line and he made the pass. But look, it's a 2-2 game. And suddenly you're thinking to yourself, well, if you're, and Kevin Bieksa said it on the broadcast, he's not wrong. If you're a Jets fan and you're up 1-0 in the series and you're going tied 2-2 heading into the third period, you're feeling pretty good about the way things have gone based on the fact that, especially when, even though you played a good first, you didn't have a great second, and yet it's tied 2-2 after 40 minutes.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, quickly, and I agree with Dave, and they obviously, didn't play a ton, 10 or 11 minutes, I believe, right? But I thought Nemestikov, Niederreiter, Wheeler, like just talking about the game kind of macro level and the forward line specifically, I really thought that line, wasn't very good tonight. I mean, they had a few shots on net that I can remember, but especially when Connor and Scheifele Dubois, they didn't really continue their strong play from the first period. And I think, that's something to watch as well. I mean, Nick Ehlers, we're going to be talking about Nick Ehlers a lot on Saturday morning show, and, whether or not he's going to play for game 3. And obviously if Ehlers plays, you expect him to go on the second line, right? Like that would be the natural fit for Ehlers. And then, Niederreiter goes back to the third line and so on and so forth. Right. But I just thought, I just wanted to say that line, I just didn't think generated a lot and wasn't really noticeable that much tonight.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a fair comment, especially when, Kyle Connor, who was so noticeable with all those shots on goals and all those scoring opportunities. Now he faded as the entire Jets team did as the game went on. But you're right. If you're looking for Namestnikov, Niederreiter, and Wheeler to maybe step up, and carry a little bit of the load after Connor did so much for the early parts of the game, they just weren't able to do it tonight. And that, certainly not the sole reason why the Jets lost, but a contributing factor.
And I just want to jump in because I think it's bears mentioning, and I think as he said this earlier, but I'm going to repeat it actually. Vegas is not a bad team. I mean, everyone just look, the Jets played the best game they've played all season. I think we would all agree that the Jets played the best game they've played all season long in that last game. So there's no question. I
wouldn't argue with that, Dave.
Right. No, and so everyone's like, well, just bring it forward. Just bring it forward. And remember, folks, we saw that in the regular season when the Jets tuned St. Louis, who had been on like a 5-game or 6-game win streak, and they came into Winnipeg and the Jets beat them 4-1 in that game. And everyone's like, that's a great 60-minute effort. Just do that. And I'm pretty sure the next game the Jets stunk the bed, or shit the bed, as they say. So it wasn't exactly a replication of what they had just done. And so it's not as simple. And I understand that people understand this, but it's not as simple as just saying, okay, well, let's just do exactly the exact same thing and we'll have the exact same results, because Vegas was obviously not going to try and replicate their terrible effort from the previous game. So you knew that Vegas was going to come out with a much better effort than what they performed in the first game. So, it wasn't going to be a mirror image of that, even though I know folks are saying you want that to be kind of brought forward and just like, well, there's your example. There's your perfection. And the Jets, I'm saying that you had the playbook. The playbook was written. You knew what you needed to do. It was just a function of whether you could execute it. And as we've talked about so far throughout the course of this broadcast, the Jets were unable to replicate, whether it was their passing, whether it was their defensive structure, a lot of the good things they had done in the previous game.
Yeah, people sort of forget about it, but you're absolutely right. The game is played by humans, and unfortunately, humans don't always put out the same.
For now,
effort.
Drew. For now,
yes. Once we get the robot players out there, then it's going to be a whole different game, and it'll be a whole different post-game show. But the humans, unfortunately, don't always have the same effort level and same success level day in and day out. Sometimes you have a good day at work. Sometimes you have an okay day at work. Sometimes you have a lousy day at work.
It's a good point. It's why it's a good point, Drew, because people seem to forget about this every single year when the Stanley Cup playoffs start, right? Look at the Tampa-Toronto series, right?
Sure.
Tampa Bay puts in, 6 or 7 goals in the first game, and then Toronto scores 7 goals in the second game, right? So it's almost like we always talk about momentum from game to game. Yeah. I mean, you can make the argument that in some series, momentum doesn't carry forward at all from game to game, right? Like, remember last year, who was it who did Carolina? Well, Carolina couldn't win a game on the road last year, right? Like the record at home was the opposite, right? Like it was like they couldn't win on the road, but they couldn't lose at home. Right. So it's like sometimes momentum does not carry forward. For the Jets, it did in the first period, but obviously the Vegas Golden Knights were the more desperate team in the second and third period, and they had to be. Like we said, like you think it's a 7-game series, so if you're down 2-0, but I mean that means you have to win 4 of your last 5 games. That's really hard to do. So you're 100% right. I mean, the game is played by humans, and just because the Jets have a bad second or third period, they could end up scoring 2 or 3 goals in the first period and winning 7-2 in Game 3 on Saturday, right? Like that's just the way hockey is sometimes.
That's right. You just you never know when. Yes, exactly right. It is just what happens in one game doesn't necessarily translate to what happens in a next game. 2-2 nonetheless after 40 minutes. It's sitting there for the Winnipeg Jets despite not playing a good second period. Yet their third period is worse than their second period was. Vegas was not going to let this game slip away from them. Vegas was not going to lose both games on home ice, and they elevated their game. Chandler Stevenson at the 5:37 mark of the third period. He gets his first of the series, assist to Alex Pietrangelo, and then Mark Stone as well. It's a point shot by Pietrangelo, and it doesn't get all the way through to Connor Hellebuyck. It ricochets to to Stevenson and Scheifele, and it's a glaring error, but Scheifele is soft defensively, and Stevenson is able to bang the puck into the empty net. You see Scheifele in a trail position there. You see Scheifele unable to tie up a stick. Mark Scheifele needed to be better in tonight's game, much like Jack Eichel needed to be better in game 2, in game 1 for the Golden Knights. I'd expect Mark Scheifele to bounce back in game 3, and he's certainly not going to like the video on this one, being slow, being behind Stevenson, and being soft on Stevenson to leave it to a 3-2 Vegas lead at that point.
Yeah, I think, you hate to say it, but you're absolutely right. Like, Scheifele is right there with Stevenson, and he takes the face-off, right? Like, so he loses the face-off to Stevenson.
Right.
And you wonder, like, is this where, Scheifele playing the wing, but then also still taking face-offs, but not playing center, but sometimes playing center? If there's a little bit of confusion there, not in terms, I don't think there was in terms of who he was supposed to pick up, right? Because off the face-off, it goes to Stone, right? So Sandberg is on the right wing, and his job is to follow Stone, and he does that. So he's high in the zone, but he's doing his job. Pierre-Luc Dubois is in the middle and kind of in no man's land, but he doesn't have anybody to pick up. Like, he's, depending on what happens, he might have to cover the point or whatever.
Right.
So you're right. It's literally a point shot and a one-on-one situation with Scheifele and Chandler Stevenson. Mm-hmm. And he has to do a better job there. And like you said, it's, Chandler Stevenson just beats him to the puck and, deposits the puck in the back of the net. So, I mean, you sometimes you can isolate a play down to a one-on-one battle. And that's what happened on this goal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just, and something we've seen so much from Scheifele, Dave, where he's just not where he needs to be. He's on the wrong side of his defender when he's in a defending position. I'm just not sure. He's just never.
I don't even know. I'm not. Trying to, just be the contrarian, Drew. I don't even know if it's the wrong side there. I think he just gets out muscled and outworked.
Yeah, that's fine
right?
too.
Like I think that's, you're right though. Sometimes it's the wrong side, but there, to me, it's like he's right there.
Yeah,
and he, whatever it is, tie up the stick, push him out of the way, like, move him. Like, Scheifele's a big guy. He's not the most physical guy. He's bigger than Chandler Stevenson, but Chandler Stevenson plays bigger than he is, right? Like, I would say a guy like Josh Morrissey does the same thing, or a guy like Neil Pionk. He plays bigger than he is, right? Yeah. And so for me, that was just kind of Chandler Stevenson just out hustling him, outworking him in front of the net.
Yeah, that's the defense is a mindset, and Mark Scheifele doesn't have that mindset, Dave.
Well, and it's funny, Drew. The thing that comes to mind is that maybe this summer, what Mark Scheifele should do, instead of going to visit Adam Oates, who was never known for his defensive acumen, was to maybe spend a summer with Patrice Bergeron or Anze Kopitar or someone who knows how to play the defensive side of the puck, because we don't have to question Mark Scheifele's ability offensively.
Right.
Generally speaking, it's more, even though obviously he doesn't have any points in this series through 2 games, but you do need Mark Scheifele to be better defensively. I mean, look, if you want to be talked about as a top center or a top winger, I guess, if that's what he is now, but if you want to be talked about in the vein that these aren't my words. He was the one who said he wants to be looked at in that regard. It's not just, I want to be the top offensive player. You can't, you have to change your game. I mean, if you want to go back to Steve Yzerman having to learn how to change just from being a pure I think Steve Yzerman is a perfect example for Mark Scheifele. I mean, Steve Yzerman was like a perfectly fantastic offensive player. And what did he do? He learned how to modify his game, and look how good Steve Yzerman became.
And he didn't win the Stanley Cups until that happened, right? Like, Yzerman
exactly.
Didn't win the Stanley Cups until later in his
career. I think we lost Ezzy.
Yeah, his mic sounded like
your mic cut out.
The mics went a little haywire there for a second, or maybe it's the computer again. Either way, Hopefully Ezzy will get right back.
Ezzy, you there? Hold on, let's just give him a second.
So hold on.
There you go. Now you're good. You're good.
I was just going to say that I'm not sure how much of that you heard, but
start again.
You're right. A guy like Steve Yzerman, he sacrificed his offense for defense, right? And he won the Stanley Cups when he became more of an all-around player, right? So, yeah, I think, Scheifele's play towards the end of the season was excellent, and he was really good in game 1. Mm-hmm. But on that particular play, just like Drew said, I mean, I hate to use the word, but there's no better word. It was just soft defensive coverage. He just wasn't hard enough on Stevenson. You got to get closer to him. You got to body him, tie him up, whatever you need to do to prevent him from scoring a goal in front of Hellbuck.
3-2 Vegas at this point in time in the third period. Can the Jets find another way to come back? And they're pushing. Not that they're pushing, consistently, but they had a decent zone time, and they looked like they had a bit of a scoring opportunity. But as so happens so often, the scoring opportunity goes for naught. The play is transitioned up the ice. The Jets, who of course are looking to equalize, get caught a little bit, and Mark Stone gets his first of the season on a tremendous feed from Chandler Stevenson. Brett Howden also getting the assist on this one, and Stone just gets behind the defenseman for the Jets. I believe it's Morrissey and it's Pionk, and they were both sort of playing aggressively, trying to equalize. Instead, they get bit in the behind a little bit as Stone gets behind them to make it 4-2 for the Golden Knights at the 13:01 mark of the third period, Ezzy.
Yeah, the pride of Oakbank, Manitoba, Brett Howden started that play in his own zone with some good speed. And the thing that stood out to me on that play was that the Golden Knights had a lot of pressure, and that was also a shift. I can't tell you the shift length. I didn't check. But it was the line that we were just talking about that didn't really have a big impact. It was Nemestikov, Niederreiter, and Wheeler. And, they drive the net, and they're tired, and they're slow to get back. And then it becomes, I guess if you want to call it a 3-on-2, right? Yeah. So nice pass from Stevenson to Stone. Like we said, Howden started the playoff. And it kind of just, that was, again, it's easy to point out a couple of goals and where players were clearly at the end of a shift, but it seemed like that was kind of an issue. Like the Jets just weren't that sharp at certain parts of the second and third period. And like you said, the attention to detail, even though it's a cliche and, sometimes we mock you for it. I mean, that's all that happens when you like the Golden Knights, again, they're a 111 point team. And I agree that, the Jets are better than a 95 point team. Like I really think, when you consider their epic collapse back in February and March, the Jets are more of a 100 to 105 point team, I think. And I think their expected goals over the last 9, 10, whatever games, proves that they're not an 8 seed, really, like Dave has been saying since the preview started. This is more like a 4-5 matchup, right? Like this is a closer matchup than the regular season point total indicates, right? So all it takes is, you fall asleep for a second and, again, Howden takes that puck from deep in his own zone. If you watch the replay, I just had it up on my browser here. And the Jets are just too slow getting back. And again, Mark Stone drives the net, nice pass, bingo, bango, bongo, and, the game's pretty much over.
Bingo, bango, bongo, indeed. Vegas adds one more goal at the 17:30 mark of the third period. Mark Stone, again, his second assist to William Karlsson and Phil Kessel. Karlsson just, with a great play behind the Jets net, but at the same time, this is just really bad.
There were like 4 Jets behind the net.
I know, and they lose the puck battle. I mean, you shouldn't have 4 guys below the red line below the goal line last time I checked. But if you're gonna have 4 guys below the goal line, you sure as hell better win the puck battle. But they didn't, and Karlsson finds Stone, who's coming in like an absolute runaway train going downhill, and he takes the pass and he wires it past Connor Hellebuck. It's a very good night for Mark Stone as he gets 2 goals and an assist. And
I don't know if you saw Drew's parents were in the crowd.
They were. I had no idea, but they make it 5-2.
Like just show the parents once, twice. If you really need to, maybe 3 or 4 times.
It's not like he's like 14 years old playing his first hockey game. Like, I mean, he's been a professional for a long time.
Well, after a while, it's just like, Dave, like what, like. Why are you okay? The parents are there. We saw them earlier. Okay, we get it.
Even Mark Stone's parents seemed uncomfortable, even though they didn't know they were on camera. They were just kind of like, "Okay, our son scored. Cool, we've seen this before." But like, we get it. We're on camera.
Like, there's no storyline involving his parents. It's not like as far as I know, his parents have overcome some sort of great adversity to fly to Las Vegas. It's just like, okay, great. Why are explain that how it's relevant to the game. I mean, well,
I don't want to hate on Mark Stone's parents because I mean, I just think it's just I know you're not, Drew. I know it just seems a bit irrelevant that they were doing it. Am I the only one who was a little bit annoyed by the PA announcer in Vegas?
I
find
he was announcing the goals like 20 seconds into the.
But it was like even the power calling the power play and the penalties. I don't know. There's something about it.
It was annoying.
Maybe I'm traditional, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to try and pull Drew's old man waving at a cloud, but like it just seemed like, I don't know, I just found it very annoying. Like every time I'd listen, I was like, I was like, is it just me? Am I finding this very annoying?
It was definitely not you.
Okay, good. Okay.
I would agree with you, and I'd agree with Ezzy. I just thought it was a little bit over the top. I mean, again, as a reminder, the national anthem singers, the PA announcers have no impact on the result of the game. Do your job, sing their song, announce the penalties, announce the goals, move on, let the play on the ice dictate the reaction of everyone else.
Don't get me wrong, sometimes, and Ezzy and I love it in Colorado where they play the the music. Super Mario Brothers, when there's funny kitschy things you can do, but that was it's just too long. It was like 25 seconds after, you're like, well, what's going on? Why are they doing this now?
It's like you might as well just like do like in basketball, like just have music playing while your team is in the offensive zone. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, we're fueled by hate. The Jets are fueled by passion or whatever it is. We're fueled by hate. So that's as Beer League says, let the hate flow through you.
It's almost 1 a.m, folks. We need to start hating on something at this point in time, and I'm just glad it's not me. That was.
I was going to hate on Drew's shirt, but instead I'm going to hate on the PA announcer.
They have little flamingos on my shirt. What's wrong with my shirt?
Well, because flamingos are representative of the Flamingo Hilton Hotel in Vegas, you traitor.
Right.
Flamingos are also representative of the great neighborhood of Transcona.
There you go.
That's true. Ticona Poly.
Exactly. I'm just repping Ticona Poly's area. That's all I'm doing. I don't. I promise you, I do not spend that much time considering my wardrobe for this show and what.
If it makes you feel better as well, Drew, my kids love flamingos. We ordered a book on flamingos because Ariella just loved flamingos, and you know what? I can understand why. Like they're very colorful.
Well, I'll tell you,
they're little stick legs.
We went when I was in Vegas. When was I there? I guess about 2 weeks ago now. Maybe 3 weeks ago, we went to the Flamingo Hotel because they have a flamingo sanctuary in the hotel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This show's off the rails.
Well, and
they still have a White Castle in there
in the Flamingo sanctuary.
No, there's a White Castle in. No.
Yeah, because any of the flamingos that don't make it end up in the burgers.
They would choke on those burgers.
But it was great. I mean, I'd never been to the Flamingo Sanctuary at the Flamingo Hotel, but I definitely my kids spent. I think we spent probably a good hour there checking it out. So, Ezzy, if you're ever taking your family to Vegas, you can take Ariel.
I've taken Ezzy to Vegas before.
Drew, I can't afford that. The only place I can afford to take my kids is like, I don't know, Selkirk. Like I don't have that type of money.
Well, nonetheless, it was worth
Drew Altus wants to know if you tried out the flamingo steaks.
I did not try the flamingo steaks. I did not indulge in that. I didn't want to traumatize my children too much. They saw enough when Daddy was sobbing uncontrollably after the losses at the blackjack table. That was going to be enough for them. 5-2 final. Vegas over the Winnipeg Jets. They even up the series at 1 game apiece Saturday afternoon. It's going to be fun, of course, in downtown Winnipeg. We'll have the post-game show coverage for you around 5:45, assuming there's no overtime. If there is,
God help us if there's overtime.
We got conflicts on Saturday, folks. So we got to hope for a regulation
it's gonna be a tight ship on
victory.
Saturday.
Yeah, we got to hope for a regulation time victory. We have some social conflicts on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. But of course, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. on Saturday. We'll get you set for that epic Game 3. When we come back on the other side of the break, we got a Tough Duck giveaway. We'll read some post-game quotes, a little bit more from the Jets and Golden Knights Game 2. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, tell your friends, tell your family. This is the place to be after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. More of the Illegal Curve post-game show as the clock strikes 1 a.m. Central Time, coming up next live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh! Whoa! Looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40, you're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. 1 in the morning, a little bit past that. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Going to be interesting, I think, because, of course, neither of these two teams are going to skate between now and Saturday's game, given that tomorrow's a travel day for both teams. They'll be heading back to Winnipeg. And then, of course, Saturday afternoon with the early start time, there's not going to be a morning skate, barring something quite unforeseen. So really, neither team is going to have an opportunity to flush the result of tonight in terms of their on-ice performance or get a handle of things. So it's going to be interesting to see how that game 3 on Saturday afternoon gets started, given that sort of the inability to get a feel for the puck and get a feel for the surroundings in downtown Winnipeg with all the travel and everything. Just another sort of wrinkle that the schedule is throwing their way with the early start time, Ezzy.
Yeah, that's a good point that you're making. And who would benefit from that arguably the most? Nick Ehlers, right? So, I mean, we're not going to, I don't think we're going to get any indication, Dave, that if Nick Ehlers is playing, it's going to be a complete guessing game, right? And I think it was Drew that made the point earlier, especially, at a certain point in that second period when the Golden Knights had all the momentum. I think that's when, a player like Nick Ehlers with his speed and skill could have provided a spark. I mean, obviously the Jets played, a dominant first 4 periods of the series without Nick Ehlers. So I mean, maybe I'm overstating it here, but yeah, that's going to be the main storyline. In addition to how, as Drew said, how are the Jets going to respond to being dominated by a team for the first time in a long time? So yeah, I mean, we have a series, boys. I mean, this is what we thought it was going to be, right? Like most people were picking the series, whether you were picking Vegas or Winnipeg, to go 6 or 7 games, right? And obviously the Jets can still win it in 5, and so can the Golden Knights. But I don't think I would put any money with Betway on that.
No, I think it's.
Oh boy, we got a Ginsburg guarantee.
More than likely to be a long series still. Before we get into the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment, I want to make mention of the Seagram's shot of the game. Seagram's VO, integrity, tradition, and craftsmanship. Get your favorite Seagram's product at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart, wherever your fine liquor products are sold. Big thanks to Seagram's for their sponsorship of the Illegal Curve post-game show. The shot of the game, I don't think we've given him one this year, so we're going to give it to Kevin Stanley. This wasn't much of a shot, but it was a redirection, and based on my interpretation of the rules for the contest, Dave, we're allowed to still call that a shot. So big thanks to Seagram's VO for their sponsorship, and congratulations to Kevin Stanley, the winner of tonight's Seagram's shot of the game for his second period goal.
Drew, tell Kevin Stanley what he wins.
He wins our praise and maybe something from Seagram's. I don't know. He wins the right to go purchase a bottle of Seagram's using his own money. Congratulations to you, Kevin.
I like that choice, Drew, because you don't see the double backhand very often. The double backhand pass and tip. So it's kind of unique in that sense, right?
It certainly was.
I was just going to say quickly, though, it's always funny because I'm incredulous because hockey players are renownedly cheap. And it's funny because whenever you'd hear during the TSN days, and for doing that interview, this guy gets a $50 gift card. And people would always be like, well, they make hundreds of thousands of dollars. You knew these guys wanted those gift cards.
Oh, no, they stockpiled. Like Mark Scheifele at home had like 30. What was it? Was it the keg that they used to do?
I think it was the keg one.
I think it was the keg. I think it was the keg. Now the keg, of course, spends their money with the Illegal Curve, so they understand there's a better use of that money.
Now we've got those gift certificates.
But it's crazy though. I just remember being like, okay, and now we're going to give him a $50 gift card, and I'm like, well, he's going to use it.
Yeah, he certainly will. Speaking of sponsors, Tough Duck. Well, I guess. Hang on, are we going back to giving away toques now? Or
we might have to go back. You get both. You get a toque and a hat.
Yeah, are we sticking with the trucker hats?
Why do we live here?
It's a great question. Our ancestors stopped here and then just never continued. And you really would need to dig them up and ask them why they never kept moving. They could have got back on the train and kept moving west.
A lot of them ran out of funds, Drew. A lot of them ran out of funds.
I love living here. It's just like when it gets to this point in the year, you're like, okay,
we got
you win. Just like enough. Like
we get it.
April 20th.
Yeah,
okay, winter. Yeah, you win. Let's go. And next week's supposed to be nice. But yeah, we're going to give out a trucker hat. And today's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment is going to go to, hold on, let me bring it up here. I had it. One second here. There we go. Patrick, we're going to get the last name Guazd. I'll say Guazd. I might be pronouncing that right, or Guozd. Jets started getting sloppy in the second period. Bad passes, have to work that much harder to get puck back. Wasted energy, and it showed in the second half of the game as they looked tired. And really, we talked about it, right? Like on which goal was it? I guess the Mark Stone goal was where was it the William Karlsson goal? Sorry, the first goal was when they were tired.
Around. Yeah,
when there was a Scheifele and Scheifele and Dubois and Niederreiter, but Niederreiter was on for Connor. They were out there for a long time, and then it was Dylan and Pionk, right?
Yeah,
that were the defensemen back. So look at, the Jets, that's all it takes. If the Golden Knights have enough talent with Mark Stone and Jack Eichel and William Karlsson, Chandler Stevenson, we can go on here, Alex Pietrangelo, and that's all it takes. So Patrick, love the comment. Send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com. It's 10 after 1 in the morning. I almost forgot my own email address. So send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com with your mailing info, and Tough Duck will ship out a trucker hat to you.
Yes.
Because we are into trucker hat season, even though there's snow on the ground, but it's going to melt, so you can still rock that trucker hat proudly here in late April.
Congratulations to Patrick for winning tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. Last word tonight goes to the Winnipeg Jets head coach Rick Bowness, speaking with the assembled media in Vegas. Big thanks to Murat Atesh for transcribing this quote. You can't give up the goals we gave up tonight. When it was 2-2, we had a great opportunity to make it 3-2, and then they came down and scored. You can't lose a face-off like that and lose the guy going to the net. That's referencing the Stevenson goal that Scheifele lost the faceoff. And then even the fifth goal, we got out-muscled behind the net. You can't lose games there in the playoffs like that. And we did. So Rick Bowness not shy about pointing out some of the foibles that resulted in the Winnipeg Jets dropping tonight's 5-2 decision to the Vegas Golden Knights. Game 3 goes Saturday afternoon in downtown Winnipeg. Saturday starts with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, 9 a.m. here on our YouTube channel. We're all about the Jets and the Golden Knights, as you probably expected. Then Saturday, late afternoon / early evening, the Illegal Curve post-game show following the Winnipeg Jets Vegas Golden Knights game back here on our YouTube channel. IllegalCurve.com has all of your latest news and audio, everything to do with this playoff series, everything to do with the Manitoba Moose, everything to do with the Winnipeg Ice. It's your one-stop shop for everything.
Big win by the Ice in overtime last night, Drew.
Exactly, to tie that
even
series
their
up
series.
too. Yeah, IllegalCurve.com, as I said, your one-stop shop for hockey in Manitoba. Want to say a big thank you to our friends at Betway for their sponsorship of the Illegal Curve post-game show. And of course, the game recap is brought to you by Betway. Also want to say thank you to all of the sponsors who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, The Keg, Grid Park, Rolly's Transfer, Seagram's, Boston Pizza, Tough Duck, and the title sponsor, our friends at Betway. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us feedback here, there, and everywhere.
So we're not going to talk about Dominic Tonato's 2-year extension?
Not tonight. Well, maybe we'll reference that on Saturday morning, but not tonight. If you haven't already done so, like I said, tell your friends, tell your family the best place to be on Saturday morning and after each and every Winnipeg Jets game is here on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. Big thanks to all of you good folks in the chat for joining us into the wee hours of this now Friday morning, almost 1:15, and there's still more than 100 of you here. We appreciate the love and support that you show us all the time. For Dave Minuk, for a very sleepy Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Saturday at 9 a.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, IllegalCurve.com.